Welcome to Inside the Birds Postgame Live. I'm Geoff Mosher along with Adam Caplan. And the Eagles, hey, they won their fourth straight game. Now you may be down to the cuticles on your fingernails after that one. But hey, four straight wins is four straight wins as the Eagles power past the Jacksonville Jaguars 28-23 at home at the Linc. Adam, again, not a perfect game. Some of the things that happened in the second quarter, a little dicey, we'll talk about, but you've won four straight. And we did talk about the Jaguars. They've done a better job. You know what their record is, but the last 2 weeks they have taken the Packers to the limit like they did a week before. It was a team that was starting to find itself. And of course, what my big takeaway is, sometimes you need you need to be tested your response to adversity. All right. The Eagles feel they got jobbed, and they did on a bad fumble call on Saquon Barkley that threatened to turn the tide of the game there, and it got close. But at the end, in the fourth quarter, they made some really significant plays to win this game. And if you look at some of the stats in the box score, it'll show you that the score was a lot closer than the actual game.
Well, they're up 22-0 at half, and I'm like, wow, maybe they'll score 40 or 50 in this game. The Jaguars look terrible. They had 31 yards of total offense in the first half. It looked like a laugher. It's kind of what we thought might happen. And then all sorts of craziness happened. But let me say this. Superman wears a cape in the form of number 26, Saquon Barkley. What an incredible game. What an incredible football play. I know he had two bad plays. You mentioned the fumble. Very questionable. He had a bad drop. Mm-hmm. Can't do that, but he saved the day. And Devontae Smith getting after it. What an unbelievable touchdown catch. He had two big plays late. Hurts played very well. We'll get into him when we break the offense down. But overall, look, they found a way to win. A.J. Brown knee injury is troubling. I would be concerned because he couldn't come back in. He'll have his MRI tomorrow, I'm sure. That's what happens when you don't come back. Let's hope it's not bad. And Van Sumer left early with concussion. But look, they found a way. They got the job done. That's the bottom line. They've got some issues on defense, which we'll get into. But, overall, it's a win. They won at home. It looked a little sketchy late, but as you said, they got the job done.
Yeah, it's funny. You said a little it sounded like you wanted to say shaky, but I thought maybe you were going with a different word at first. But it's a family show.
Blank T, itty.
Yeah, there was a time on Inside the Birds where if you cursed, we would be guaranteed an extra 1,000 listeners. But that's all right. We don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's such a blossoming.
Sorry, kids. Yeah.
So I want to ask you that because I agree with what you're saying, and I am more concerned long term with A.J. Brown potentially being out. We'll have to see. We just have to see. He didn't come back in the game.
No idea.
Because we've seen what this team is like when A.J. Brown doesn't play, and it's not a pretty picture. And they've got some pretty important games coming up and some short turnaround as well. I think if this were like a week 4 game, sort of like maybe the win over the Saints or some other, we could sit here and say, man, this win feels like a loss or it's not clean. And I don't feel that way. I feel like the way the Eagles have played, even though there was some shoddy tackling in the second half, even though there was some coverage, it almost looked like they went back to soft coverage there late in the fourth quarter, even though there were some things that sort of gave you that icky reminder of when they weren't playing well earlier on. You've won 4 straight. You've built up some currency now. You did some good things offensively. You did do some good things defensively in this game. You just made it a little closer than you needed to at the end. But again, Nakobe Dean, Adam, great play. I love how the broadcasters were like, man, you really don't want to throw the ball to a running back there, especially that running back. In that situation, you'd rather put that ball in the hands of a wide receiver. And I think that's a fair argument. But Nakobe Dean, whose play himself has gotten better as the weeks have gone on, makes a very heady, alert type of play to seal it.
Yeah, he did. That opposite play of the game, his biggest play of the season, no question about it. So, look, they closed it. They got the job done. It looked hairy, scary. As you said at the beginning here, find a meme with someone biting their nails. Sweating. It's crazy, really crazy second half. Never saw that coming. I was like, what the hell? Are they going to choke this game? No, this can't be. Because it would be, because everyone, we love in this town, everybody wants to find the scapegoat. Who would you point the fingers at? Vic Fangio, they choked, soft defense, tackling, you mentioned that. Offensively, how do you go from housing them in the first half to only 6 points in the second half when you turn the ball over? That turnover streak's over. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is they found a way to win. in what should have been a dominant game overall. It was for one half. There's no question about it. They were phenomenal on both sides of the football in the first half, but second half, not so much.
Right. I think you've got to give credit to the offense for obviously taking advantage of a Jacksonville Jaguars team that was beat up itself. And, we said in the pregame show with Greg Cosell, you'd probably be able to attack the edges and run the ball pretty well with Saquon Barkley, which they did. He had 27 carries, 159 yards. And we also said, but it doesn't mean they're going to come out and run the ball 50 times. It's a throw ball game. You can take advantage of the Jags secondary. It's been leaky. And another efficient game for Jalen Hurts to be 18 of 24, complete 75% of his passes, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 132.3 passer rating. Adam, I know that there was a near interception there, the Cisco one that got reversed, but bottom line, clean football, efficient football. And when you're up 22-0, as you mentioned, going into halftime, you feel like you have a game under control there. I'm sure they'll look at what didn't go well in the second half. Obviously, again, the strange fumble call and some of the longer conversions they were allowed. But if you actually look at the stats of this game, Adam, the Eagles had 447 total yards. The Jaguars had 215 yards. I can't sit here and say bad job second half defense. I mean, it was bad situationally in the fourth quarter there in the third, but overall, when you give up only 215 yards, you've done your job.
Let's get to the offense. So, and we'll start there. And look, the first half was really, really good. Now, the strangeness of the 3 missed 2-point conversions, that's bad.
Very bad.
I don't know what the hell. I don't know what's going on. This is they got to look at that. That's bad. This can't happen. That was very disappointing. Also, they had some penalties. There's a little sloppiness with the penalties, but Barkley was unbelievable. He was incredible. Hurts. You mentioned the almost pick. The actual play that he's got to be better. The only play that in my notes that I thought he really was bad. It was the 4th and 3 to A.J. Brown. A, he's late. B, you'll see it. You don't need coaching tape to see it. On TV, if you slow it down like I did, I'm like, how the hell? Why didn't that get completed? Protection was great. Jalen, for some reason, without anyone on him, he decided to turn his body to try to take something off of it. I don't know why he did that, and he was late and got deflected. But other than that, he was great. I mean, he threw the ball great. Courageous, tough. The Johnny Wilson throw was a great throw over the middle. I don't know how the hell he did it. He's strong as hell. Yeah. And the blocking receiver, Johnny Wilson, didn't get credit for it because he pushed off. Oh, well. But no, Jalen was really good in this game.
Yeah, it's sort of like last week, right? Because last week he played a great game. There was that one pass in man coverage that he threw in the flat that was nearly picked off. And you wonder, like, how do you make that throw to a guy when the linebacker's right there? But every other play, you're crisp, you're clean, and you protect the football. What else jumped out to you offensively? I mean, we did see Jahan Dotson with a 36-yard catch, so a sign of life there.
My man, I cannot believe that catch. I'm laughing. I'm like, wait a minute, because Anais Smith was 82, I think, wearing L.J. Smith's number. But Anais Smith, they had an inside handoff to him. It's pretty funny. But look, Devontae Smith, he's very quiet. They're not getting him the football. Has the bomb down the left side. Amazing play. Great throw by Hurts. And then the catch of the year. Just see, I actually got instant replay before the TV did. I had the game on DVR, so basically, literally, as soon as he caught it, I'm like, "There's no way." So I hit pause, I put it back, I let it run in slow motion. I'm like, I don't know how he did it. I'm like in total awe of it. It was just he is. In my lifetime watching football, I don't know about you. I've not seen anyone this size who's so thin. Not even like D-Jax. They're kind of built. They were built the same. D-Jax put weight on late in his career, but what Devontae Smith is able to do is just ridiculous, and that was good. The protection, by the way, once again, really good. Wasn't great. Now, I'll say this about Hurts. The thing I really liked today, other than that he played exceptionally well for the most part. Yes, he took some sacks, but I like that he was willing to hang in there and not bail. Now we don't know what the coaching take looks like. There were some times when maybe he didn't like what he saw and he ran. He looks healthy, by the way. He got hit a bit. He looked healthy. I mean, he ran the ball, I thought, really well. And made a juke move. I love when he does that. You can tell he's healthy when he does that. Barkley got hit. He hurt his thigh. They didn't put on the injury report, but I could tell he hurt his thigh.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what I'd be shocked if he practices on Wednesday. He's got to be super sore.
Right.
And this is an unbelievable stat. I put it on our pregame notes on our Patreon channel, our page.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into the game, the Eagles are the only NFL team to run the ball more than they were passing it by one. I think it was 226 and 225 runs versus passes. And today it was a crazy 46 versus 24.
Yeah.
So, hey, you want to call the Eagles a running team? I'm not going to argue. You got Saquon Barkley, who right now is the team's MVP. He's unbelievable. This is a great signing at $12.5 million a year. Wow, and he's tough, and he handled himself well. This is just I'm sure they're going to look at it and say, boy, do we leave a lot of points on the field? And Sirianni's got one more thing. Sirianni's got to figure out this 2-point conversion stuff. Tush push. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, very, very surprising. I mean, a bread and butter type play that's just not going for them. Now, maybe teams are getting alerts on it, with the new personnel that you have up front. I don't know. We'll have to ask and look into that. That was surprising. I think you just made maybe the point of the show so far is that they'll look back on this and they'll see points left on the board, opportunities left on the board, that if you just make a play here or there, if the refs don't job you here or there, you probably put a lot more points on the board than or at least what you're expecting. They left some points there, and that allowed Jacksonville to hang in there just a little bit.
Yeah. I had no problem going with the field goal. I might be in the minority, by the way, but I know you and
I thought about that, Adam. I was trying to. I would agree that even if I think I would have punted in that. I taught myself in this situation. I'm like, I think I'd punt here, but I didn't kill him for wanting to go to a field goal based on Jake Elliott's history of making long field goals, B, being aggressive, going for the jugular, and I just thought that yes, you have a great upside if he gets the 3, you're up by 8, and you make him score a touchdown and a field goal. And again, offensively, they were not as good as maybe the 23 points looks. They only had 200 and something yards. So I didn't kill him, but my thought was, at the time, just make them again. They haven't really moved the ball that well in totality offensively. Make them drive the length of the field, but I don't think it's the crime of the century. And we had issues with his 4th down calls and his game management for the first 3 or 4 weeks. Even though I would have done something different, I'm not going to kill him for that. I think it's one of those things where 2 things can be true. And you know what? If Jake Elliott had made that field goal, wouldn't have shocked me at all. But he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it actually was going to go in. Then I'm like, oh, it was curving, and then it hit the upright. So offensively, that was pretty much it. Defensively, we can get into, obviously.
Yeah, real quick on the offensive line. I thought, Jalen Hurts had protection, made throws. I know that I know Fred Johnson had a few moments against Josh Allen, which is I thought he might struggle a little bit more this game than the last one because Fred Johnson's a really big guy, big, strong. I mean, all the Eagles tackles are huge, right? And when he goes up against a power guy like Trey Hendrickson, speed to power, feel like he can hold his own. He'll get owned on a few snaps or he'll get driven back. But I think speed guys, for a guy as big as Fred, might give him a little bit more tough. The real speedy, bendy guys like Josh Allen can be, probably give him a little bit of some tough times, tough snaps, because you got to you have to be fast in your set, right? And you're a big guy. He's got a big and turn and be able to get his hands and arms on everybody. But in general, I thought the offensive line did fine.
It was very good. May not be quite as good as maybe some of the others, but they were solid. They gave Hurts enough time, and Hurts, for the most part, really delivered. It was a gutsy game. I mean, when you lose A.J. Brown, it's just different. You're talking about one of the top 3 players in the league at his position. It's just different. You don't have that physical presence. And don't forget Goddard. Goddard's not there. That certainly is a problem. Slay not being there. Let's get to defense as we speak here. Mm-hmm. So they picked on Rodgers today. There's no question about it. They went after him in the second half. He's a smaller guy. We mentioned this in our pregame show. This is a concern. He's 5'10", 180. It showed. Now, he may not even be 180. He might be 175, 178. Anyway, you catch my drift. He's a smaller player. You'd like him better as your third corner, but your third corner has got to be ready to start at a moment's notice, and he had to start today. He's very aggressive. There could have been 2 pass interference penalties he didn't get called for. DeJean got lucky on one. Cooper clearly did the veteran wrap, where you wrap your arm around the guy. They missed it. clearly on the replay. So I know the penalty very well. They just didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't challenge penalties. You can't just challenge something that should be a penalty.
Thank heavens you can't challenge penalties, or else these games would be 6 hours.
I know. Belichick wanted you should be able to challenge anything exactly like you're saying. It'd be way too long. But here there is a problem. This game was a real problem. Their lack of a number one pass rusher reared its ugly head the second half. I mean, it was bad for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That is, they don't have anyone close to an A-level pass rusher. They got a bunch of what I call number twos. Sweaty's working hard. He had a nice game at times. But man, and Jalen Carter had some quality rushes, no question. But overall, their lack of an A-level pass rusher was alarming in the second half.
I agree with you. I think the alarming part is sort of that Vic constantly has to scheme up pressure, which you can do against certain quarterbacks and certain teams, but it's harder to do when you're playing the really, really good quarterbacks and good offenses. You need, to your point, guys to win one-on-one matchups. Now, that was a nice sack by Sweat in the first quarter, was it, right? But I felt like Milton Williams actually had the best pass rush in that, and it forced the quarterback towards Sweat. And Sweat got him. Now in the fourth quarter on that sack, which it was a great sack at the time, but then they go and convert the next play on fourth and whatever it was. But Sweat, that was a TE stunt, right? Sweat went inside, the tackle loop to the outside, which is great. That's good scheming. But again, it's sort of like I need to get my guys on the move. You can only do that so much. You can't just twist and stunt your way for an entire game. Eventually, you're going to have more guys winning one-on-one. And those two Sweat sacks were the only sacks in the game. And to your point, just not enough consistent pressure there.
Yeah. And I think, look, when you look at this situation, it's not likely to get much better. We've seen enough now. We're at the unofficial midway point on a 17-game season, only 8 games, but we'll call it the unofficial midway point anyway. And they have who they have. It's highly unlikely, even if they get a pass rusher in a trade, you're going to get a high-end pass rusher. Teams just don't give those guys away. Mm-hmm. So they're by Tuesday's deadline, they're gonna have to make a pretty good decision here where they're at here. They are 6-2. Washington's got a half a game lead because they played one more game. The Eagles play them in week 11. They host them, I think, on that Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So that's coming up, but they're not a Super Bowl team without a better pass rush. They just don't. And Vic, he's just gonna have to swallow his pride. I know he doesn't like the blitz. He wants to be 4-man pressure. Man, when they brought 4-man pressure, it seemed like Lawrence he's just not very good, to be honest. He was better in the second half, but when they don't bring 5 or 6, it's just a different team, man. They just can't get it, and they're going to have to look hard at this.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this conversation you and I having sort of makes me recall the conversation that we had with Greg Cosell in the pregame show about Jalen Carter. Is Jalen Carter dominating the game enough on a week-to-week basis as he should be? Did he hit the quarterback today? Did he get a lot of rushes? Did he stand out in any way to you, Adam, that made you think we're okay on the interior because he's giving you that burst snap in, snap out?
Yeah, he had some quality rushes today. Did he hit the quarterback? Technically, no, but he made him move. Mm-hmm. That how many plays we'll find out what the tape looks like. So, yeah, they just don't have that guy. Zach Bond, as Greg told us, has been used more as a pass rusher lately. He is really their defensive MVP this season. He's been, I mean, the pick, the one he had an interception today, which is an incredible play. I couldn't believe that play. He's been a great story. You got to love that. But they got a pass rush issue. We don't know enough about Slay's injury, the groin injury, to know when exactly he's going to be back. So that's something. They need Goddard back in the worst way. They need a physical presence at receiver in the worst way without AJ Brown. Again, we don't know severity of it. We'll know more tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So they got some injuries to get through here. They play at Dallas, where, by the way, next is it at night? Wait, or was that a 4:25 game?
I thought that was a 4:25 game.
It is.
The following game is the Thursday night game,
correct,
right? Against Washington, right?
At Dallas, where they haven't won, I think, since 17. So now Dak has a hamstring injury. First, it was his hand, where you saw him bleeding, but it's really his hamstring. That He even said I gotta get this looked at. That's not good. And Cooper Rush can't move.
Right.
Eagles have faced him before, by the way. But Dallas has got their own injury problems. They're terrible at home. Dallas, by the way, their last 4 home games, they've got up 167 points going back to the playoff game. So they got their own problems, but we'll see what happens. It's a win as a win. As you said, they won 4 in a row. They got to clean some stuff up. And it was I got to say this, though. It was one of the strangest second halves I can remember. I can never remember. It's really crazy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there was a point where I'm like, there's no way Jacksonville's going to pull this off, are they? Like, Doug P is not going to come in here and pull this one off and save his job and, be the conquering hero going back to no, it can't happen, right? Because, we've seen some crazy-ass Eagles games before, and I was worried we were headed for another one there. But I'm like, they're just outplaying them too much for them to lose this game. But sometimes the cookie crumbles the other way. So the Eagles were able to hold on. I want to ask you about a different Rodgers, Isaiah Rodgers, because you talked about how they definitely went after him. And how do you parse this? Because it's his first start in almost 2 years. So that they're going to go after him. He's also a shorter corner, and they've got some bigger targets. So do you look at it and say, okay, yeah, we expected you were going to give up some plays that went after you, and maybe this is why Vic did not feel comfortable blitzing as much to leave Rodgers in one-on-one situations? Or do you look at it and say, hey, he got his feet back wet again. This is something to build on. And if he has to play again, he'll be better. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is, with Gabe Davis didn't play, which is he had this bad shoulder. They weren't going to take a chance of him getting in there and just being out because he left very early last week. So anyway, Brian Thomas, he had the 2-point conversion. Brian Thomas has been a great story as a rookie. He didn't crush him. This Parker Washington, he made a couple big plays in the second half. The Trammell kid who had the fumble early in the game, he had a couple plays late, and that was concerning. So yeah, they went after Rodgers. There's no question about it, and that's something that they're going to have to look into. I don't think it's like, okay, all of a sudden they're going to play Ringo over him if Slade can't play. But as you mentioned, yeah, he hadn't started a game, and it's been 2 years, and he had to do it. And they're going to have to clean some stuff up. But man, it would really help if they get a better pass rush. It was not good, man. Lawrence had all day. He could survey the field and then throw it in the second half, which he could not do in the first half.
Yeah, and that's kind of 2 weeks in a row now. Now, look, Burrow made some plays off of his mark. He was certainly moved off his mark. But there were also times Burrow knew where he was throwing the ball, threw it, 3-step drop. But really, the Eagles didn't generate an intense pass. The Eagles went 2 weeks against the Giants and against who? With the Browns, right? Where the pass rush came alive. And then they played the Bengals and now the Jaguars, and the pass rush was not there. And if you were to do was the pass rush there versus was the pass rush not there over the course of their 8 games so far, I think you would probably say not there more than there. And so that's why it is a concern. Like you said, if the goal here is not only winning the division, making the playoffs, winning a Super Bowl, you are going to need a guy in your front six that gets after the quarterback, wins one-on-ones a lot more consistently than we're seeing. So I think you're making a great point. Tuesday is the trade deadline. The trade deadline has not been good for Howie Roseman for the last few years. He's brought in some guys that just haven't either been good fits or it didn't work out with Robert Quinn a couple of years ago. He hasn't really had a great one since Jay Ajayi in 2017. Golden Tate was okay, but they took him forever to get him sort of acclimated. He gets credit for making this touchdown catch against the Bears, but honestly, it was a rub route and he's wide open. Jahan Dotson could have done that, right? So
what a catch he had to Byard, you can't trade for Byard. Safety. You can't, because you got to learn this. That was just a mistake.
Right.
We know why they did it, because they needed to. They needed a safety, but to learn a completely different defense and also the chaos of the coaching staff, it was just a disaster. He's doing a fine job for Chicago. He's starting for them, but the pass rush, there are guys available. Clownies of the world, guys like that are out there. Veteran pass rushers, Darius Smith, guys like that. I mean, it would help, but they're just like the big time pass rushers are just not going to become available. They're not, because those teams know it's a premium. So it's going to be a fascinating thing. And you look, well, if let's put it this way, if there's a major move, we'll probably do a live stream, but we're not going to do one unless there's something major.
Right. Any final thoughts on special teams? I mean, obviously Jake Elliott does not make the 57-yarder.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're a little spoiled. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of guys who are money on 57-yarders. He for his career, he's really damn good from 50 to 60 and 60 plus. But he didn't make that one. But it's not like I'm sitting here concerned that he's like no longer the kicker that he used to be.
Yeah, no, he's fine. I mean, Braid Mann has been a good story. Nearly 49 yards a punt, put one inside the 20. DeJean caught 4. Gainwell had the only kickoff return. It was actually nice. He had now if he was more explosive, it might have been a 50-yard return instead of 34. He had a lot of room. That was actually blocked really well, and it was fine. It was 34 yards, but I thought he left some yards on the field. But going forward, they just got to clean some stuff up. They got to feel good. At least they won. And as you mentioned earlier, and I could not agree more, is that the AJ Brown thing, even if it's short term, he's not playing at Dallas, that worries me. That would worry me because we've seen it without AJ Brown. It's a disaster. Now, if Goddard came back this week, it would help.
It's different, though. It's different. Yeah. Goddard gives you something, but not what AJ Brown gives you.
On the outside.
He is the wheelhouse of what Jalen Hurts does really well. Goddard is not going to give you a 55-yard catch down outside the numbers. He'll give you one if 3 people fall on a mesh route and he catches it across the middle. But in general, he's not going to hurt outside the numbers the way the Eagles like to strike. So yeah, that's big.
Well, but what I would tell you, he would give you a physical presence. But yes, obviously, in AJ and Hurts' chemistry is ridiculous. So you don't have that, and that's obviously an issue. So we'll see what happens. And it's too bad Van Sumer got in early as a fullback. And by the way, we saw a little bit of Hurts, and not as much as last week. It didn't seem, other than we did see him a little bit. We saw him. Definitely saw a play with Jalen under center when Barkley had a big run. I like that. That was good to see.
Yep. So. And maybe no more throws to Ben Van Sumeren. maybe we don't do that anymore. We'll see. We'll see what happens going forward.
He did catch one. No, he did. Didn't he catch one?
I mean, yeah, but he got like leveled immediately as he caught it.
Yes, right? Yeah, I know. That play design didn't work.
Well, it almost felt like the on tape, the Jags have seen him play fullback, and they know, all right, they're probably going to try to get the ball to him this time instead of just having him be a blocker, and they seem pretty keyed in on it. So, but yeah. All right. Last thing is it's hard to believe this and say this, but I mean, the Eagles have won 4 in a row. They're 6-2 and riding high, and they still can't gain any ground on the Commanders, Adam, which makes that Thursday night game like really amazing, setting up to be a really amazing game. But it's just shocking how the Commanders just keep on going and keep on going.
Yeah, they've won 7 out of 8,
3 in a row, 7 out of 8. Yep.
Yeah, and then they had a bad loss it was week 1. I mean, that's week 1 at Tampa, and the Baltimore game. They had to feel good that at least they pushed Baltimore a little bit. They didn't play great. They didn't play well. That was probably out of the last 8 games, that was their worst. They have to lose. But bottom line is Washington's ahead of schedule, more ahead of schedule than anyone could have thought. It's been a good story. Every year people look for the surprises. This was the big one. This is the big one. I know that it was popular. I didn't buy it. They've had a good schedule, kind of like the Eagles. Now, ironically, you talk about the similar schedule. They host the Steelers, then they're at the Eagles. Then they got Tennessee, New Orleans. Then they host the Eagles. And then they host the Atlanta. So both teams, Eagles and the Commanders, they've had pretty good schedules, and that's part of why the records are so good.
That's right. Week 10 is going to be exciting. As you mentioned, Commanders, Steelers, Eagles, Cowboys, with a lot riding on the line. We're going to have a great week of coverage here on the Inside the Birds platform all week long leading up to Dallas week, because as soon as you and I, Adam, exit this screen and this show is done, it becomes Dallas week, right? Just like that. So it'll be Dallas week, and we'll have great shows. We'll have Gun on One. We'll have Inside the Birds. We'll have Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell. We'll have our Ask Greg Cosell for our Patreon members, our Ask IDB live stream for Patreon members, and of course, Inside the Locker Room and Rookie Diary by Andrew DeCecco. So it's going to be another great week of content coming up here on the Inside the Birds platform. Any parting words? Any final words?
No, look, it's, let's hope for the best with AJ Brown, and it's Dallas week, as you said. Always interesting, and seeing if they could win actually in Dallas. It's been a while.
All right, we're on to the Cowboys.
That's right.
That's going to do it for Inside the Birds post game live. For Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher, and we will catch you on the next one.